Okay, so this is how you're going to join your two ends together. Yours is much longer than this, of course, so it's going to be, I'm going to sew these two ends together just to show you how to do it. So because this is really thick yarn, normally you would use like a darning needle or another needle for wool that's called a bodkin, but for this kind of thing, I just like to do it by hand, and that's fine. So you take the end of your yarn, make sure you got it, 2 or 3 times the width of the piece, and take it over to the other side. And what you're going to do is you're going to find the hole that's under the first stitch on that end. So you see where that is under the 2 loops, which is 1 stitch. So I'm just going to put that yarn through there and pull it through like that. Now, if you're pretty sure that's where you want to finish it, that's a good length. And if you have another tail on the other end, because sometimes it would be on the opposite end, but since it's on this end, and if I'm sure, then I would take that little bit that's sticking out and I would tie it in a little knot like that. We're going to deal with that later, but actually I would give it a couple of really tight knots like that. So then take your long yarn and go back again to the other side and pick up your next stitch, which is the next hole. So it's like there, the next second stitch. You'll see the first stitch, second stitch. Put the yarn underneath there. So basically you're just doing slip stitch all the way down, and then under the second stitch, pull it again. So now you've got 2 stitches together. Then go back, oh, sorry honey, go back the other side, find the next stitch, and it doesn't have to be perfect, just have them fairly close if you don't know where the stitch is actually located, because that yarn is also bubbly, knobbly, what's it called? Cobblestones. Yeah, like I'm having trouble finding mine right now. So, oh, gosh, yeah. I know, you have infinite patience, but I'm like a little frustrated here. Okay, in through there. Oh my God, there we go. And then over again and through the next stitch and so on all the way down. So you're just doing it by hand. Take your time and don't have it too tight, because if you make that seam too tight with your stitches, like pull it every couple of loops, it's going to pull the seam in together, and you don't really want that. So I'm not going to do the whole, I'm not going to video the whole thing. When you get to the end, say I've already stitched that, you put your yarn through the last loop on each end, like so, and then pretend that's all sewn. Then you have to do it a couple of times, make some slip knots like that on the end so that it stays together. And I would just do that, like loop it in through, make your slip knot and pull it tight, and do that 2 or 3 times till it's quite tight before you cut it. Like don't cut this off until you're pretty sure you got all your stitches, because you can always unravel that and start again if you've missed a stitch or if it's too tight. And that's all you have to do. Now, just one other thing. When you joined the 2 balls of yarn before, and I told you just to tie them together and don't cut them off, changing wool. This is an example of one here where I joined 2 balls together and I tied it in 2 knots. Now, you could weave that in and out between the stitches, much like you do when you're doing the slip stitch. But with this kind of work, when it's thick and knobbly yarn like that, I just make 2 or 3 really good tight knots, and I trim the yarn very close to the last knot, and it kind of just fills itself in to the space. You won't really notice that it's a knot there, so then you can just cut those off. Okay, and that's those two things. All right, give that a try. Let me know if that works, and if it doesn't, I'll do another one. Okay,